The SEALs weren't asking for victory anymore. They were begging for survival. Pinned inside a crumbling village, every alley spat fire, every rooftop poured lead. Their commander's voice cracked over the radio, calling for a combat pilot. What came back wasn't the thunder of a man's voice. It was quiet, calm, a woman's reply. And in that single moment, the battlefield shifted forever. You're watching the Scape, where hidden warriors and forgotten battles come alive in cinematic detail. Before we dive deeper, tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? We love seeing this community span across every corner of the globe. The night air was thick with smoke and grit, each breath cutting like sandpaper. Commander Nathan Riker, a 20-year veteran, pressed his back against a wall cracked by mortar fire. His 6-man SEAL unit, Viper Team, had been sent in for a simple snatch and grab. Intelligence said quick in, quick out, the kind of mission that barely made the after-action reports. But intelligence lies. Now tracer rounds stitch through the narrow alleys, slicing sparks off stone. Machine guns barked from rooftops. AK fire shredded plaster into clouds, and every escape route had been sealed by enemy fighters flooding in from the dunes. The men's rifles were hot, their magazines frighteningly light. "Ammo check," Riker shouted over the chaos. "2 mags left," Maris yelled back. "Last mag," Daniels added, voice ragged. They were being squeezed in a vice, their options dwindling by the second. Another RPG slammed into the far end of the street, collapsing a doorway where Ramirez had been seconds earlier. Dust rained down, coating sweat-soaked faces in a gray mask of exhaustion. Riker knew what it meant. If they held, they'd be cut apart. If they ran, they'd be mown down. His men looked to him, waiting for the impossible order. And so he reached for the only card left to play, air support. He ripped the handset free, pressing it tight against his lips. "This is Viper Team to Overlord. We're pinned in Sector Echo 4. Request immediate close air support. Danger close. We're running out of time." Static. Just static. The men froze. Each heartbeat felt heavier than the last. If no one answered, this village would become their grave. Then through the hiss, a voice. Calm. Clear. Unshaken. "This is Falcon 1. I have your grid. Hold tight." The SEALs looked at each other, stunned. They had expected a growl, the gravel-throated certainty of a hardened male pilot. Instead, it was unmistakably a woman's voice. Quiet, controlled, like a steady hand cutting through the storm. Ramirez whispered, half in disbelief, "Tell me I didn't just hear that." But there was no time for doubt. The ground shook again as gunfire raked their cover. Riker's chest tightened. Whoever Falcon 1 was, their lives now rested on her wings. High above the desert, a pair of engines carved a low growl into the night. The SEALs couldn't see her yet, but they felt it. The deep vibration in their chests that didn't come from mortars or machine guns. It was different, calculated, controlled. In the cockpit of her jet, Major Evelyn Falcon Kane adjusted her grip on the stick. Sweat traced along her temple, though her voice stayed calm as she toggled weapons systems live. To her, the chaos below wasn't panic, it was geometry, coordinates, angles of attack. But she could hear it, the strain in Commander Riker's voice, the clipped edges of men who had minutes left before the desert swallowed them whole. "Viper Team, confirm laser designation," she said, her tone level, steady, almost disarmingly quiet. On the ground, Riker snapped back into motion,
raising the designator and sweeping it across the far rooftops. Copy, Falcon 1. Laser hot, Sector Echo 4. Her HUD blinked green. Lock confirmed. She eased her jet into a shallow dive, the village lighting up through her targeting system, every muzzle flash a pinprick of fire in the black. Dozens of them, more than intel ever suggested, but she didn't flinch. Hold position, she said, softly. First run inbound. The seals pressed flat against shattered stone. Maris muttered, "She better be good." Ramirez shot him a look. "She's in the sky, we're in the dirt, shut up and trust her." Then the world screamed. The GAAU-8 cannon thundered like rolling steel, its roar drowning out the firefight. Shells stitched across the rooftops with mechanical precision, shredding enemy nests in a storm of sparks and fire. The ground shook under the barrage. Stone collapsed. Fighters scattered, some shouting, some silent as the gun ripped through their cover. Dust engulfed the alley. The seals coughed, eyes wide. Daniels blinked through the haze, disbelief painted across his face. Holy hell, she's good. Riker stayed silent. He just listened to that calm voice cutting in again as if she hadn't just shifted the entire battlefield. North flank suppressed, opening you a lane west. Move on my mark. The men tensed. This wasn't panic anymore. It was coordination. 3, 2, 1, move. They sprinted, boots pounding broken pavement, bullets still cracking around them, but thinner now, less coordinated. Falcon's run had rattled the enemy, bought them seconds, and seconds meant survival. Ramirez dove behind a burned-out truck, chest heaving. "She's flying that thing like she's reading our minds." Maris reloaded, shaking his head. "No, she's flying it like she owns the sky." Above them, Falcon banked hard, the horizon tilting as she lined up her next strike. Her breathing stayed even, though alarms flashed across her display, SAM signatures flickering from the ridgelines. She knew it wouldn't be easy. Nothing about this battlefield was, but she wasn't here for easy. She was here to keep 6 men alive who otherwise wouldn't see the sunrise. Viper, multiple hostiles regrouping East Sector. I'm engaging now.
Riker keyed the mic, voice raw. Copy. We're still moving. She pressed the trigger. A missile detached, a white-hot streak tearing into the enemy stronghold. The blast tore the eastern wall apart, sending fire and debris cascading into the night. The shockwave knocked one fighter off the roof entirely, his rifle clattering uselessly to the stones below. On the ground, the SEALs stumbled but kept running, every nerve alive with adrenaline. Each blast above wasn't just destruction, it was protection. Precision, danger close, every strike threading a needle between death and salvation. Ramirez risked a grin through clenched teeth. "I don't care if she's man, woman, or Martian, she's the best damn pilot I've ever heard." Daniels barked a short laugh, firing blind around a corner. "Amen to that." But Riker knew better to celebrate early. He had led men too long to mistake momentum for safety. He kept his radio pressed tight. "Falcon 1, you've given us breathing room, but they're not done yet." Her reply came as calm as ever. "Neither am I." The words sank into him. He didn't know her, didn't know her face, but in that second, he trusted her more than the sand under his boots. The team vaulted into a new courtyard, only to be met with another wall of gunfire. Bullets chewed stone inches from Ramirez's head. He swore and flattened against cover. "They're everywhere, Commander." Riker raised his rifle, teeth gritted, about to return fire when her voice cut in again. "Eyes up, courtyard, northwest corner, I see the nest." The jet screamed overhead, low enough to rattle their bones. A burst of cannon fire rained down, erasing the nest in a plume of sparks. Silence followed.
just for a heartbeat, just enough for the SEALs to catch breath. That was the difference. She didn't just destroy targets. She created moments, breathing space in a fight designed to suffocate them. Still, the danger mounted. From her cockpit, Falcon's HUD blared a new warning, enemy launchers priming. A missile streaked skyward. Instantly, she flared countermeasures, her jet diving into a hard roll. The missile detonated harmlessly in the clouds, but the maneuver slammed her body against the harness. Her voice, though, didn't waver. Still here, focus on your fight. On the ground, the men exchanged looks of disbelief. Maris muttered, "She says it like it's nothing." Riker's jaw tightened. He'd seen plenty of pilots lose their edge under fire. This one, she had steel in her veins. Another explosion rocked the eastern wall. The fight was far from over, but the SEALs weren't the same broken unit from 15 minutes ago. They moved with purpose now, each man syncing with the calm voice guiding them from above. Ramirez slammed a fresh mag into his rifle, grinning through dust and blood. "Commander, I take it back. Whoever Falcon 1 is, she's not just saving our asses, she's running this fight." Riker keyed the mic, his eyes scanning the chaos. "Falcon 1, Viper Team acknowledges. Lead the way."
Above, Evelyn Kane's gloved hand tightened on the throttle. She didn't smile. She didn't celebrate. She simply answered, her tone like steel wrapped in silk. "Copy that, Viper. Stay with me. We're not finished yet." The SEALs pushed through the smoke-choked alleys, every step a gamble. Walls cracked under stray rounds, doors splintered from impacts. But the path was open, for now. They had Falcon 1 overhead, carving corridors through chaos. Riker signaled his men forward with a sharp motion. "Move! Keep low!" His voice carried authority, but even he felt the shift. The team wasn't just following him anymore. They were following her. From above, Major Evelyn Kane scanned her tactical display. Blips flashed like angry embers across her HUD. Enemy signatures clustering in pockets. They weren't retreating. They were regrouping. She muttered under her breath, a habit she'd never lost. "Come on, show me your hand." And then she saw it. "Viper, listen up. They're funneling you east. Don't take that alley. It's a trap." Ramirez froze mid-stride, glancing down the shadowed path. From the ground, it looked clear, almost inviting. But he trusted her now more than his own eyes. He jerked his head back. "You heard the lady. East is death." The team shifted directions, just as a burst of fire tore into the alley they'd almost taken. Mortar shells thumped a heartbeat later, obliterating the narrow lane in a spray of dust and brick. Morris coughed into his sleeve. "If we'd gone that way." Daniels cut him off, voice grim. "We'd be gone." Riker pressed the mic. "Falcon 1, that was too close. You've got eyes we don't. Keep calling it." Her reply was calm, clipped. "That's why I'm here." She banked left, dropping altitude until her jet skimmed low enough that the SEALs could feel the engines press the air around them. The roar gave them strength. To the enemy, it was thunder that promised death. The battlefield wasn't new to Evelyn. She had fought for every inch of her cockpit long before tonight. At the academy, she'd been told in quiet whispers that women weren't cut out for frontline combat aviation. Too emotional, too fragile, too slow. She'd learned to tune it out, not with arguments, but with results. Every exam aced, every sim conquered, every check ride flown cleaner than the men who doubted her. Tonight, those years of silence became her greatest weapon. Her voice came over the comms again, steady as a stone in the storm. "Hostiles regrouping on your north. Stand by." Riker held his men tight against a shattered wall. His ears rang, his lungs burned, but when her cannon opened up again, it felt like the desert itself was answering their prayers. The north flank disintegrated under the barrage, fighters scattering like sparks in the wind. The SEALs didn't cheer this time. They didn't have to. Respect was already written on their faces.
Still, the enemy wasn't broken. Through her targeting system, Evelyn saw fighters dragging heavy weapons into position, a mounted machine gun, an RPG team hurrying through a courtyard. If they fired in sync, Viper would be shredded. She clenched her jaw. "Viper, mark your positions and stay down. I'm taking the nest." "Copy," Riker said. He dropped the IR marker, his pulse hammering. Falcon 1 rolled her A-10 into a steep dive. G-forces pressed her hard against the seat, but her hand stayed steady. She lined up the nest in her reticle and squeezed the trigger. The GAU-8 roared, the courtyard erupting in a bloom of fire and dust. The mounted gun vanished. The RPG team scattered. 2 cut down instantly, 1 diving for cover too late. On the ground, Ramirez shouted over the ringing in his ears. "That's twice she saved us in less than a minute!" Maris spat into the dirt. "I'll buy her a drink when we get out of this." Daniel smirked, voice ragged. "You and half the team." Riker silenced them with a look. "Focus. We're not clear yet." But inside, even he felt the weight lifting. For the first time all night, hope wasn't a fragile thing. It had teeth. Above, Evelyn scanned the field again. Her fuel gauge dipped lower than she liked. Ammunition counters blinked at the edge of red. She didn't say it aloud, but she knew her time was finite. She had to make every strike count. Another alarm blared. Missile lock. She reacted instantly, popping flares, jerking the stick into a brutal roll. The missile streaked past and detonated harmlessly, but the maneuver rattled her teeth. She exhaled once, slow and even, before keying the comms. "Still here. Stay moving." On the ground, Maris shook his head. "She makes it sound like a Sunday drive." Riker didn't answer. He just looked skyward, jaw set. Whoever Falcon 1 was, she wasn't just a pilot. She was an anchor. The SEALs surged into another block, only to find themselves pinned again, gunfire raking down from 3 rooftops. They dove behind cover, trapped. Riker's chest tightened. The enemy was adapting. They were throwing everything they had into crushing Viper before dawn. "Falcon 1, we're boxed in again. Options." There was the briefest pause, then her reply, calm but edged with steel. "You've got 1. Stand by. When I say move, you move." The jet screamed overhead, lower than ever before. Windows shattered from the concussive force. Her cannon opened up, shredding the first rooftop, then the second, fire raining down in sheets of sparks. She banked hard, missiles locking, then fired into the third nest. The explosion turned night into false day. "Move!" she commanded. The SEALs ran, legs burning, lungs screaming, but they moved with faith. And somehow, impossibly, they broke free of the kill zone. When they collapsed behind new cover, panting and bruised, Maris let out a laugh that bordered on hysteria. "Commander, we're still alive!"
Riker keyed the mic again, voice hoarse. "Falcon 1, you just turned death into daylight." Her answer came quiet, unshaken. "Negative, Viper. You did. I'm just clearing the path." But they all knew the truth. Without her, there would be no path at all. The village was burning. Fire licked along the rooftops, smoke curling into the night sky like black banners. Viper teams sprinted through the rubble, lungs aching, rifles low on ammo. Each man knew the truth. They were still alive because of the calm voice guiding them from above. But war doesn't let miracles breathe for long. They thought the worst was behind them. They were wrong. From her cockpit, Major Evelyn Falcon Kane scanned the tactical display. Enemy signatures still flashed everywhere. Rooftops, alleys, broken courtyards. The strike she'd just pulled had carved them a path, but the enemy wasn't broken. They were angry, and anger was often deadlier than numbers. "Viper, hold your position.
she said, her voice level despite the warning chimes lighting up her HUD. They're regrouping north. I'm going to cut them off. Commander Riker pressed his men flat against the wall. His chest burned with every breath, his body screaming for rest, but he knew there was no rest until extraction. He clicked his mic. Copy, Falcon 1. We'll hold. The words had weight. They were trusting her more than their own instincts now. Falcon pushed the throttle, her jet slicing through the night, the ground blurred beneath her, rooftops sliding past her like shadows. Her targeting reticle locked onto the cluster forming at the northern edge, fighters dragging mortars into place, preparing to rain death on Viper's last cover. She dove. The GAU-8 roared, fire ripping through the mortar teams before they could fire a single round. Dust blossomed across the rooftops. Sparks lit the sky. Her hands never wavered. Mortars neutralized, she reported calmly. On the ground, Maris exhaled hard, shaking his head. Every time I think it's over, she saves us again. Ramirez reloaded, voice tight. Don't get comfortable. Look at them. They're still coming. And he was right. Fighters poured through the alleys, their shadows stretching in the firelight. The village seemed endless, a labyrinth that produced enemies from every crack. Riker's jaw clenched. He keyed the mic again. Falcon 1, we need more than cover fire. We need a way out. There was silence for half a breath, just the hum of her engines. Then her voice came back, calm but absolute. Understood. I'll give you one. But to carve a door out of chaos, she'd have to risk everything. Falcon banked hard, alarm screaming in her cockpit. She was pushing the limits of altitude and fuel, but she had no choice. The seals were boxed in. If she didn't clear a path now, there wouldn't be another chance. Viper, stay low. I'm making a run. West Alley, on my mark.
Riker signaled his men, adrenaline cutting through exhaustion. They pressed tighter into the shadows, every heartbeat sinking with the roar of engines above. Then it came. Her jets screamed overhead, cannon fire pouring down in relentless streams. The West Alley exploded into fire and dust. Enemy fighters shredded before they even realized what had hit them. Walls crumbled, rooftops collapsed, and through that storm of destruction, daylight broke into darkness, a path. West Alley clear, she said, voice steady as ever. Move now. Go, Riker roared. The SEALs ran, boots pounding broken stone, every nerve on fire. They darted through the smoking alley, Falcon's barrage still echoing in their ears. For the first time all night, they were moving toward open ground. But nothing in war is ever free. As they broke into the courtyard beyond, a fresh hail of gunfire met them. Fighters had regrouped faster than expected, RPGs primed, rifles blazing. Ramirez dove behind cover, cursing. Maris fired back blindly, shouting, "We're pinned again!" Riker's blood ran cold. They'd escaped one trap, only to run into another. Falcon 1, he barked into the mic. We're cut off again, heavy resistance on all sides. Falcon's HUD flared red. Her ammunition was dwindling, fuel lower than she liked. Her jet had limits, but her voice did not. Copy, Viper. I'm still with you. Hold your ground. But even Falcon had her limits, and the enemy had just found them. The first missile streaked from the rooftops, locking onto her jet. Evelyn yanked the stick, flaring countermeasures, the missile detonating harmlessly, but another alarm blared instantly. A second launcher had locked. She twisted into a brutal dive, the G-forces crushing her into her seat. The missile missed, exploding high in the clouds, but her breathing was ragged now. Still, her voice didn't waver. I'm still here, she said softly. Focus on your fight. I'll keep the sky clear. On the ground, Riker's men stared upward in awe. Maris muttered. She sounds like she's sipping coffee, not dodging missiles. Riker pressed the mic again. His voice cracked for the first time all night. Falcon 1, if you don't make it... She cut him off, calm, certain. I'll make it. Now move. Don't waste the window I just gave you. The SEALs surged forward once more, hearts hammering, guns blazing. Every step felt like a stolen second of life.
bought by the calmest voice any of them had ever heard. And as they collapsed into the next alley, smoke and fire curling around them, Riker realized the truth. They weren't just following her guidance anymore. They were surviving by her will alone. The night had become a furnace. Every alley glowed with fire. Every wall shook with the percussion of explosions. Viper team stumbled through the haze, lungs seared, eyes stinging, but still moving because the calm voice above refused to let them quit. But survival was slipping away. They thought she could fight forever. They were about to learn she couldn't.
Major Evelyn, Falcon Kane, scanned her cockpit. Fuel gauge dipping into the red, ammunition count screaming low. Every weapon system told her the same truth. She was running out of ways to protect them. But she didn't let it bleed into her voice. Viper, status. Commander Riker crouched behind a shattered archway, scanning his men. Maris bleeding from a gash across his forearm. Ramirez limping, his ankle twisted. Daniels shaking with exhaustion. They had maybe 3 magazines left between them. He keyed the mic, voice rough. Not good. We're dry on ammo, bodies running on fumes. Copy, Falcon replied. Her tone didn't waver. You're still breathing? Riker glanced at his team, dust-caked, bloodied, eyes hard but alive. Affirmative. Then you're not done yet. Her words carried weight. They weren't encouragement. They were orders, carved into the storm. She banked her jet low, her HUD locking onto a cluster of fighters setting up heavy weapons in the next block. One strike in the chamber. She squeezed the trigger. A missile streaked free, slamming into the courtyard. The explosion tore through the enemy line, buying the SEALs another fleeting breath. But inside her cockpit, Evelyn's jaw tightened. That had been her last missile. Only cannon rounds remained, and not many. Every pilot has a limit. She was standing on hers. On the ground, Ramirez fired his last magazine dry. The click of an empty chamber echoed louder than the gunfire around him. "I'm out," he shouted. Maris cursed, throwing his last grenade blind over the wall. It detonated with a hollow roar, scattering shadows but not stopping them. Riker's pulse pounded. They had minutes, maybe less. He pressed the mic. "Falcon 1, if you've got anything left, now's the time." Her calm reply came back instantly. "Understood. Stay low." Falcon rolled her A-10 into a brutal dive. The GAA-8 opened up, its iconic growl shredding the rooftop gunners who had pinned Viper. Sparks and fire rained down in a storm. The SEALs flattened themselves to the dirt as the cannon's fury carved them a path forward. Dust cleared. Silence held, just for a heartbeat. Then the next wave came. Dozens of fighters surged from the alleys, shouting, firing wildly. Viper team braced, but their weapons were nearly empty. Daniels raised his rifle, fired 2 rounds, then cursed as it clicked dry. Maris gritted his teeth, using his sidearm until even that sputtered empty. Ramirez pressed his back to the wall, voice hoarse. "We're finished." Riker's eyes snapped at him. "Not while I'm breathing." But even he felt the truth clawing in. And then her voice again. "Viper, listen carefully. I've got one last run in me. You move when I say move. You stop for nothing. Do you understand?" Riker pressed the mic. "Copy, but Falcon 1, if you're out." She cut him off, tone sharp, unshaken. "I'll make it count." This wasn't just another strike. This was her last card.
From her cockpit, Evelyn lined up the battlefield. She could feel the weight of it, the men below depending on her, the empty racks on her wings, the warning lights flashing like dying stars. Her hands gripped the stick, her breathing even. She whispered the words she'd carried since training. Calm wins wars. She said, "On my mark." The jet screamed low, its shadow rolling across the village.
Every fighter looked skyward as the GAAU-8 unleashed its final fury. Shells ripped through walls, tore apart machine gun nests, scattered fighters into chaos. The ground shook with the violence of it, rubble crashing down in clouds of fire and dust. She commanded, "Move!" Viper team didn't hesitate. They ran. Through smoke, through fire, through the thunder of collapsing stone, they pushed forward, following the path she had carved. Every step felt stolen from death itself. Ramirez stumbled, his ankle giving way, but Morris grabbed him under the arm and dragged him forward. Daniels fired a scavenged enemy rifle until it jammed, then tossed it aside and kept running. Riker led from the front, teeth clenched, eyes fixed on the opening ahead. Behind them, the battlefield erupted in chaos. Fighters screamed, disoriented by the storm from above. For the first time that night, the enemy faltered. But above, in the cockpit, Evelyn's hands trembled as her ammo counter hit 0. Empty. She had nothing left to give but the engines beneath her and the voice in her throat. She keyed the mic one last time. "That's all I've got, Viper. The rest is on you." The SEALs dove into cover at the edge of the village, lungs on fire, chests heaving. They were alive, for now, but they all knew the same truth. Falcon 1 had given everything, and if extraction didn't come soon, even she couldn't save them. The village lay in ruins. Fires licked at broken rooftops. Smoke curled into the desert sky, and the echo of the last cannon run still hung heavy in the air. Viper team crouched in the rubble at the western edge, lungs burning, weapons empty, every nerve screaming. They had made it this far because of one voice, but now even that voice had admitted the truth. Falcon 1 was out of ammunition. They weren't out of danger. They were out of time. Commander Riker pressed his headset. "Overlord, this is Viper. We need immediate extraction. Coordinates marked." His voice cracked at the edges. He had led men through hell before, but never like this. Minutes stretched like hours. Then the low chop of rotor blades rumbled in the distance. 2 helicopters crested the ridge, their silhouettes glowing faint against the firelit sky. Extraction was coming, but so was the enemy. Fighters poured back into the alleys, shouting, desperate to cut them down before they could escape. Ramirez raised his empty rifle like a club. "If they reach us first, it won't matter."
Then, Falcon's voice cut in again. Calm, steady. The same tone that had carried them all night. "Negative. You're not alone. I've still got the sky." She pushed her jet lower, engines howling as she flew a protective arc over the courtyard. She had no missiles, no shells, but her presence alone shook the fighters. Each time they tried to mass for a charge, she swept low, her engines rattling the earth, scattering them in fear. "Move to the birds," she ordered. Riker grabbed Ramirez by the arm, dragging him forward. Maris fired a stolen pistol until it clicked dry, then threw it aside. Daniels staggered under the weight of another man's pack, refusing to leave it behind. They sprinted through the dust toward the waiting helicopters as enemy fire cracked around them. One helicopter touched down hard, kicking up a cyclone of grit. Door gunners opened up, suppressing the alleys. Viper team dove inside, gasping, collapsing against the cold metal floor. "Falcon 1, this is Viper," Riker said into the mic, breathless. "We're on the bird. We're alive because of you." There was a pause. Then her voice came back, softer now, but no less steady. "Negative, Commander. You're alive because you held the line. I just cleared the sky." The helicopter lifted, rotors chopping the smoke, carrying them away from the burning village. Through the open door, Riker looked back once more. And there she was, her jet circling high above, a dark guardian against the stars. Ramirez whispered, almost to himself, "She never broke. Not once." Riker didn't answer. He didn't need to. Every man on that helicopter knew they'd just witnessed something they'd carry forever. They never saw her face that night, but they would never forget her voice, the calm reply that cut through chaos and turned death into daylight.